What I want to talk about right now, this evening, is about David's fall. You can read about it, how he fell for Bathsheba and it led to murder and led to the Lord sending Nathan. He was corrected, the child died. He remained with Bathsheba. Oh dear, why did he do that? He got another son, Solomon, which had to rename Jedediah on the order of the Lord. But that guy who grew up with his mother still chose the pagan name Solomon. And you know the rest of the story. David became old, but he couldn't function anymore mentally. And Bathsheba took advantage of it, together with that son of hers, which she got with David, to overthrow Adoniah, who was the real heir of the kingdom. So Solomon's reign was the result of a hijacking. The Lord tolerated it to work out his purpose. And the Lord revealed what type of pagan Solomon was, because Solomon received knowledge from the Lord. But that was enough for the man. He went to all those pagan gods. He married over 1,000 women. I hope they were all real women. Okay, I'm not going into that now. But he built all temples to all those other demonic spirits where they sacrificed children, all of that. Until this day, amongst pagans, Solomon is a great example. Now, when the world sees you as a great example and they venerate you in their traditions, you're in big trouble. And you could read in the book of Ecclesiastes how bitter this man was at the end of his life. He hated women. He considered women more bitter than death. Well, you're the one messed up, Solomon, but okay. And he said, "Fear the Lord." And a lot of people like to take that quote, "Fear the Lord." While the New Testament explains there is no darkness in the Lord, and perfect love casts out fear. So this, and it also says that fear is a demonic spirit and it's not from God. So who do you believe? The apostles who walked with the Lord personally on the earth, or this pagan ruler who rejected the knowledge of God, who forfeited the heritage of his father David, and who came with his own pagan conclusions in a depressed book called Ecclesiastes? Who do you give more weight to? Of course, the ones to walk with the Lord. Because Solomon did not walk with the Lord. Absolutely not. But okay, about David's fall. Too often we only look at the character David, and we only look at David and what happened to David. Look at the context. He was king of a nation that rejected him and preferred a genocidal maniac called Saul. Those people, even a generation after Saul was gone, they rather had a genocidal maniac who was demon-possessed, ruling over them and managing their lives than they had David, who was anointed. Remember, it took David 8 years after he became king of the tribe of Judah to be king of the whole of Israel. And even then, there was still resistance against him. When that son of his, Absalom, usurped the throne, a lot of people went along with it, a lot of them. So throughout his lifetime, his own people were against him. Do you get that? Some people think that David was his beloved king, that people loved, people really worked for him. No. He was a man that was hated since the day of his youth, rejected by his own parents, rejected by his own relatives. And people enabled harm on his life all his life long. And by the way, Bathsheba was a witch, a gold digger. She was married to a man who was high in the army. But this witch wanted to get more. But instead of going to a pagan king or a pagan ruler, she chose a man of God. To charm a man of God when he was on his weakest. And it worked. She wanted to get rid of her husband to be with the king now. And the king, unfortunately, he was bewitched. He fell for it and he helped her get rid of her husband. Well, David was wrong, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he wasn't wrong. However, look at the bigger picture. Why didn't this witch choose someone else? Why did she have to go after a man of God? Well, that is what the witches do. They tend to go after the man of God, seeking comfort. Why not seek comfort with their fellow pagan men? They don't do it. With their pagan men, they don't do that. Because their pagan men will treat them like crap. But they go after the man of God to seek comfort, and at the same time they dump all the waste on the man of God. They pollute and wreck the man of God. That's what witches do. Yes, that's what they do. Let it be a lesson to you guys. You will have those witches who will seek comfort from you. They'll pretend to be pathetic victims that need help in order to enable you to do the dirty work for them. And you're not even aware you're doing the dirty work for them. That's how they bewitch you. So learn from David's life. But it's not only Bathsheba I want to talk about. I want to talk about that people. That people, those Israelite people, I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them, they were wicked. I dare say the majority of them were reprobates. I mean, how can you have a man who's anointed by the Most High directly? And the Most High is revealed, he will choose this man. Even when he fell, the Lord said, the Lord made plain, I'm with him. And you guys still revolt against the guy? While it's that guy that protects you against the enemies nearby? Come on now. Why am I talking about David's fall? Because from Christ's perspective, it wasn't a fall at all. Christ allowed it to happen to reveal his faithfulness and to reveal the wickedness of the people around him. Because where were all those prophets, all those people, when David was being bewitched by Bathsheba? Where were they? Where were they? Why weren't they there besides their king, besides their leader anointed by God, to guard the men of God? Isn't it natural to look after your own? Where were they? Where were they? I don't care if David was king. He was still a servant of the Most High, and all that served the Most High should have watched after David, who was anointed. Because he's a human being that's anointed. They should have watched after him. They didn't. So don't just look at how David fell. Look at what fell from our perspective. Look at the whole situation. The Lord used situation to reveal the wickedness of the Israelite people and to reveal his faithfulness, so that we will learn to rely on his faithfulness and not on our support group. Because David had no support group. He had a hate group. He had many hate groups. Okay, there were some that supported him, but very few. So let David's life be an example unto you. Rely on Christ, not on your support group. If you have a support group, be thankful, but don't rely on your support group, because the enemy can use them anytime to tear you apart. Seriously, where was David's support group when the enemy was after him, when the witch came after him? And do you think Bathsheba was the only witch that tried to bewitch David? You really think that? Man, I'm telling you, rely on Christ. Because when I look at David's life and I put it in perspective, man, I feel quite irritated at those people that lived back then. I never want to meet them unless they are born again. They were born again, then I'll see them at the resurrection. But besides that, I don't want to see any of those people. If you can treat someone that has been anointed on your behalf like that, sorry, I don't want to deal with you. But today, people are the same. I'm not being pessimistic here, nor cynical. I'm telling you, do not rely on your support group. Rely on Christ. Because even if your support group is really for you, they are human beings. They can fail or they can be misled. Rely on Christ. That's it for now. Be at peace.